No, you got it.
Okay, it's I couldn't quite see it on my screen because I'm screen sharing, but that's a very good point. Okay, it's going on.
Can I share my screen for a moment just to offer a possible place where the tutorial link could go?
Okay.
So here is, if we go in the documentation tab for the science platform, there is this beautiful empty spot here on the right after the DP0 catalog schema. Because for now, if you want to go to the tutorials, it took me a while to learn the path. You have to, the only place where you could find it is actually going to this data preview tab and not the others. And here you have a link to the tutorial. And you have to click again. So it's like 4 passages if you get the path right. If you don't, it's kind of cumbersome then to get to this page. So a more direct link, I think, would be really helpful.
But that's primarily for the portal tutorials, right?
Yeah, they're both at the same place, right? Or yeah, anyway.
But I guess the general comment is to, to work on the, the accessibility of the documentation and tutorials. Because I can see, look, when you shared your screen, Igor, that there's a portals area. So things should be accessible through multiple paths, because people will take multiple routes. People have a different intuition about where to look. But I totally agree that things should be on the landing page, but there should be internal links. Like if you go to the portal page, there should be, a link to portal tutorials. Okay, so do we have? I know that there was at least one comment in Slack about people. At least one person did some homework, and I don't know if that person is online and willing to discuss what they did.
Sorry, I didn't understand. Are you asking if someone checked the homework that?
Yeah, there was so some people,
or?
Yeah, exactly. If anybody had, not to put anybody on the spot, but if anybody has something that okay, so Igor said he has some comments on the tab. Does any so we can just go in order of listing or just order of volunteers.
I can comment on the portal tutorial number 3, but if there is a topic before that one, so let me know if you want to go straight to that one.
Why don't you go ahead and then Igor can go after.
Because that is the, let me see, because first is tab service for catalogs, and then is the ops tab service. So maybe if someone wants to point out something about the tab service, and then
I guess Igor, you had suggested, and you've done that. So why don't you go ahead then?
Yeah, sure. So the part of the reason why I asked the question before we started the recording is indeed because I brought some of this feedback already last time, and I think I have also some updates. So I'll probably merge the two. First of all, I think it's good to say it out loud one more time that the DP0 products and tutorial are extremely good. I'm personally happy as a user. They are way above many other examples I'm used to. So congratulations to Melissa, Jeff Carlin. I see a lot of people who contributed. So I think that's very important to highlight. There was hard work put there, and you can see the result. That said, there are a few additions, I think, or things that are kept well documented, such as, for example, timestamps for when the tutorials were last updated and verified, which I think is also very useful to keep track of when things changed and until which point everything works fine. During the PCW, a point I brought up is that the speed of the query was sometimes fast, in some other cases was extremely slow. At least not extremely slow, sorry, let me rephrase. Slower than it was announced in the markdown that was preceding a cell. Now, I don't know if it's because today and with the other days I worked was particularly lucky, but it looks like speed has improved in the last few months. I don't know if someone working more closely with what's going on behind the scenes can confirm if any better indexing or anything else has happened. So which I've managed recently to fetch products more quickly than a few months ago. I see that Dominique wants maybe to chime in on this.
Yes, I have a comment about the speed. In fact, I think it's directly related to the size of the Rubin Science platform. I mean, the number of nodes attached to the platform. Recently, I tried to make a comparison between the response time of the Rubin Science platform and the QServe instance that we have at IN2P3. At IN2P3, the situation is that we have not yet a Rubin Science platform instance running. So we have the possibility to make direct QServe queries. But basically, this is the same. There is just a small override for ADQL queries, but with the queries that I tried, I think it doesn't matter. And in fact, the result was very interesting because the QServe instance at CCIN2P3 is I think it's 50 nodes, and my query run in 1 minute and 28 seconds. I'm checking the number at the same time. And the same query on the Rubin Science platform was 14 minutes. So I think that the conclusion, it doesn't mean that the Rubin Science platform doesn't work, of course, but it means that this is just probably just a scaling issue related to the number of nodes.
Which is good news, means maybe things can also scale pretty well. So that's noticeable.
That you can probably gain a factor of 5, 6 without any problem.
If I might generalize this to sort of a specific suggestion about documentation, would be as the RSP is in development and things are still happening, is there some level performance expectation that people should have, right? Should it be like, oh, this query suddenly took an hour and it used to take a minute? Well, we might have some of that. We should definitely report that. This query takes 3 minutes instead of a minute. I don't know. Is that a thing? Well, it's consistently so. So maybe a question we could ask is, what are the performance expectations for the RSP, and is there a dashboard of sort of current performance? And not like, you should do this next week, but like as part of, planning over the next year or something, that might be useful and interesting.
I think part of the reason for the improvement has to do with the fact that it is a cloud computing facility, so they actually dynamically add resources. So once they see that more people are connected in, I think that more resources are being added automatically. At least that's my understanding.
If I may, where I was going with this is in 2 years, this committee might be asked to provide suggestions about balance of how finite compute resources are allocated, and having visibility to performance and demands might be an important part of that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. And I think in general, as long as we set the expectations right, that's fine. Then if the users, like the community comes back and really makes a demand for a change in pace of the queries, that's kind of a different story. I think as a first level, just make sure if something you say it should last 2 minutes, make sure it doesn't last 20. It's as simple as that. And I think, again, things have improved such that all the time windows that were declared as to be expected for the various queries, I think they're all respected now, which wasn't the case a few months ago. Before I move on, I see Matthew also with hand raised.
I just had a question. Do we have a sense for how many total users we expect to have on the Rubin Science platform at peak? So after data is available?
10,000 is the baseline.
Okay,
That
thank
is
you.
different than answer to your question, perhaps.
It probably will never be 10,000 at any given time, but you know, that's the total number.
Okay, and if I may raise another point, maybe a bit technical, but something that I think many people will face as they become recurrent users. So I have become a recurrent user now after we were asked to provide feedback a few months ago. And what I noticed is that the tutorials didn't automatically update in my cloud portal. Now, this is a very well-known issue and it is well documented. So there is a beautiful page that tells you what the best practices are to avoid this problem, how permissions should be handled, what to do to solve it, to be able to continue working. So after I dug a little bit within the Rubin pages, so without going into external resources like Stack Overflow, I managed to solve the problem in 10 to 15 minutes. Now, I'm not purely black belt software engineer, but I have already some experience. Perhaps not it is possible that, let's say, the solution might not pop straight away. So something that I noticed then going back to basically how you even initialize the system is this. If you allow me to share the screen one more moment, if you go into the notebook part, you see that you can, you're offered the possibility to log into the notebook straight away from the top, which is great because that's where I want the link to be when I come back. But I'm an eager user. I'm not the type of user that developers love, which first reads the whole documentation and then opens the portal. So I open it immediately, which means I probably miss all the relevant information, for example, about having to copy your tutorial folder and work on a copy such that you can always git fetch and pull the updates of the tutorial. And if you don't know that, or if you don't wonder, oh, were there any updates, you just remain stuck perhaps for years with the tutorials that we have available now. So once again, information is there, but I would strongly recommend to make this stand out at the very beginning before even getting started, because it's a best practice that can save a lot of time to people and make sure everyone works with the most updated version of the tutorials.
Did I see something about that's the defaults are being changed a bit, so that's going to be somewhat forced? I'm trying to remember the thread on that. Ms. Melissa actually knows this exactly.
It's possible.
I could comment on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for especially for new users, people who are newly joining, newly getting accounts, this will all be pretty transparent. It's kind of the permissions already set up so that you can't make changes within that base directory, and it'll be automatically updated without you having to do anything. It's just all of us, roughly 400 to 600 now, previous users who might need to do things that Igor just described, and correct things. And I actually have to admit, in my case, what I basically did is I just blew away that one directory and now I just do everything in another directory, but copying things over as necessary. But but yeah, as the tutorials are updated on what are called Patch Thursdays, and not all Patch Thursdays will have updates, but for new users, it should just be automatic. It's just for us old users or previous users who would need to do something to change permissions or whatever.
I'm really happy to hear that this has already been addressed.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Except for us previous users, that it's you have to kind of go through the route that you did. I think that's correct. I think it's basically that's great. Maybe Greg or Tina could correct me if I got some details wrong there.
I think that's right.
Okay.
That is my understanding as well.
Okay, thanks.
You could make, there are instructions though that you can figure out how to make your directory so that it doesn't get written over as well. There's instructions, sorry, that we can provide to you if you need that.
Fight the system.
Okay, and yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Just if one final comment that I would like to bring up again is that among the things that these tutorials brought in particular of all tutorials of all sort is good visualization products, and I think would be valuable for the Rubin projects to have nice plots to show when we start doing science, or even when people start publishing about data preview simulations, since I think some are planning to do so. So I would just encourage the project to keep track of what the visualization aspect looks like, especially from the portal. I see that there are a lot of knobs that one can turn. I don't know if this has been improved from a few months ago or it's always been there, but I was noticing these days that it is the case. But yeah, in general, if the quality of the plots remains high or even improves, to the standards that internationally recognized journals are used to, I think that can truly improve the project, have good visibility if nice plots are shown, and perhaps guidelines in case should be provided, especially for the use of plots from the portal.
So are you thinking like there'd be specific style recommendations for a presentation, use this, for a figure that's to be printed at 1 figure per 2 column, use this, for a figure at 1 column, use this? Is that kind of?
I wouldn't say that specific. It's just, I think if we make the portal, like keep improving the portal such that the quality of the plots that come out of it can be paper quality, we're on the right path. That's pretty much it. Nothing more detailed than that. Yeah.
I think that's a good suggestion. I'm actually just building on that. I didn't mean to interrupt. To build on that, for various data behind the plots initiatives, maybe there could be some like, here's how to get the plot and the points that went into the plot.
100% agree.
At this point, maybe I can continue sharing my screen, because there are a few points that Melissa was kind enough to provide us that could potentially guide to a discussion. So let me just go on and put one of the view graphs on here. So just, here we go. Okay, so are there any comments that you might have on the, of course, we covered portal tutorials, and this is very valuable, what I just have heard. Anything else on portal tutorials that any of you might have? Anya's point was very well taken, that we need to make sure that there is a better link to it. What about the notebook tutorials? There's 3 of them that we listed here.
Hi, this is Marcus. So in the Slack channel, we had the Butler tutorials. Yeah, it's also Notebook, I think. Yeah, I was looking at the tutorials.
I think it is in
Uh,
another slide, maybe. This is like the third topic.
Okay, so this is another one. Is that what you meant, Alejandro, or something else?
I mean the next one. I think the next one is the Butler.
Is
sorry,
that that's the one?
yes, yes. Sorry, yeah. I got ahead because it's also a notebook, so I was confused. Sorry. We can just go ahead for the other ones. I don't know if somebody wants to go.
So Alejandra, I think you had, you were mentioning that you have some.
Yes, I can comment on the previous one, the ops tab.
Okay.
That is the previous slide. Yeah, because it refers to a new part compared to the DP01. That is in the portal usage, but referred to images. So to go to that, I checked again the documentation, the introduction for the portal, that in a general sense, and I also joined the team congratulating the group for how clear, how brief, the brief text is very informative and descriptive and pedagogical in some sense. So the portal, for those that haven't used it, works in the Firefly platform or interface, not sure exactly which words used, but since I'm not used too much to Firefly, but I'm used to Aladdin and Tomcat, I can use that as a comparison. And it works quite well in the sense of like an all-in-one tool that you can see the information for your tables and even the description for the fields in the tables, and also the images, and you can select a given row in your table and go directly to the image of that. So some things that I can highlight as very particularly useful for the portal are how hovering the mouse over the different sections. It has a lot of information, but this helps to just for what you are looking at that time, obtain the description and even some pop-up windows. So you don't have to go back and forth necessarily to the documentation to remember what is each thing. Also, again, the texts are very clear and brief. And in that sense, the introduction gives many recommendations and some warnings running something. For instance, keeping at the beginning the number of objects to return small so that the query can run fast and things like that. So especially for beginner users, I think that is very useful. Also, in the portal, you can do the queries via a user interface or also an ADQL. And you can go from the user interface to the ADQL, and that conversion that is automatic is also very pedagogical for people starting in the SQL or ADQL language. Also, they give the warning that the conversion back is not occurring, and so that is quite clear. Also, the schema browser that you can have when you are selecting constraints, for instance. You have all of that in your window. So if you don't remember the name of the variables, you have it there, and the description and the types. So it's very convenient how it's structured, this platform. And it provides several filters and constraints. For instance, in time, you can have the last amount of time or a date range. So it addresses several possible uses that we can give it. And then with that, I move it to the proper tutorial that is based on an example of a supernova and its potential host galaxy. It explores a lot of the functionalities, not all of them, but highlights many of the functionalities for the images. Like you can have several displayed in your window, and block them so that if you do a zooming one, you can go to all of them. So it's compared to my current usage of TopCat and Aladdin is quite similar, is quite familiar, and has many possibilities for the science that you want to do. From all of this exploration that I did, the only points that were not clear to me were for regarding the queries. It's not clear to me if only closing the window is canceling the query, because after doing the query, for instance, I made the mistake of not decreasing the number of objects. So at the beginning, I was waiting for a lot of objects. And at that point, the cancel button is not available, or maybe I didn't find it. So it's not clear for me if it's just closing the window is enough to using all the bandwidth of the query. So maybe I don't know if it's enough to having somewhere else written it, or maybe highlighted even more. Another thing also is that since there are many type of images provided, and that LSD will provide, like the coads, the different images in the introduction, is very clear how they can be obtained in this query. They are detailed in the calibration level. So one corresponds to a number 1 and the other number 2. But that is in the introduction provided, but it's not directly in the portal. So maybe this is because the Firefly is like a more general. So maybe even for Rubin, this won't apply after DP02. But if it will apply, I think that it will be useful to have it even there, because having the distinction between the coads, the PBIs in the query, it would be also useful. And with these two things, maybe they were solved already. I didn't have the time to check if they were in the GitHub issues or in the community forum. But I was thinking also because of that, if there is, or is it planned to have like a frequently asked questions section, and if it's not available, like directly connected to the documentation or to the tutorials, maybe based in the most visited posts in the community forum would be useful, especially because sometimes it's even harder to start approaching to the community forum in these things. Once you are used to it, it's easier, but to solve these questions that might be very obvious at the beginning. But in all, I can see it's quite easy to follow. It's also fast for the queries that I did. So had a great experience exploring the portal. That's what I can mention.
Yeah, the statement about the frequently asked questions is particularly useful. I think we are certainly intending to have something along those lines, because very often people can just look through and see, aha, this somebody else is also addressed this. But I'm sorry, I'm speaking too much. It really should be run by Michael. So sorry. Yeah. So go ahead.
No, that's fine. Thank you so much. That's okay. So thank you so much for the comments. Can we move? Do we have any more comments about OPSCAP or this slide? Otherwise, we'll move on to Butler. I think Marcus, you had some comments about Butler.
I raised my hand. Yeah, thank you. I agree, Alejandra, that I like it. It's fantastic. Thank you. This is what I've wanted. With a couple of things. The calibration level is deeply unobvious. Yes, it's there in the documentation, but as an interface, I think that should be fixed more broadly. The 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 just doesn't. Specifically, it looks like the aspect ratio where it shows RA-Dec isn't set to be correct in terms of the local tangent plane. For if you're getting a patch, this is kind of fine because they're square, it kind of looks square. But if you get a raw, which is just a strip of an amp, the associated detections don't share that aspect ratio. So I think maybe, let's see, the specific suggestion is make sure the plot as defaults to the same aspect ratio of the image, if that's where you're getting things from, or make it more obvious that the how that's supposed to work. Does that make sense? I can share my screen for a second if that's helpful. This is a sort of visual statement.
Sure.
Yeah, sorry. So like, yeah, okay. Right, so I selected a raw, so I'm getting just the amp. There are what, 8 amps per detect or something, right? So that is skinny. The projection of the sources on that is just done to fill the area of allocated to the box. So that's just sort of visually confusing if the point was to be able to select things from here and sort of see where they pop up over there.
Mhm.
Yeah, that is certainly a point that we probably will bring up with the portal developers. I think that's a good point, very good point.
I mean, it's annoying because my monitor doesn't have that aspect ratio, but like, so I'm sympathetic that there's not a perfect solution. But
Can
I'll
I
have-
comment? Just that now that I saw your screen with the coverage tab, I remember that there appears a simulated color image of the DC2 in GRNI. I was wondering when I saw it if it's planned to provide more color images or maybe the ability to build on the fly the color images to display along with the one filter ones. Actually, I found like a way to display them with the GRI, but I don't know if that was intended or not, but it's also useful for the exploration. Not sure if it's planned or is in the queue.
Maybe I should bring up the issue of difference image analysis. Many of you probably in this call are interested in making sure that that works and it's easily accessible. So does anybody have comments about that?
Igor, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, about the relevant notebooks in particular. I think once again, the notebooks are done in a easy and very effective manner. So the user should be able to handle the products pretty well. Something that has come up, I think, quite extensively during the PCW and outside that is that people are still confused about what the alerts will look like and about where the role for like DP0 and in general products from the Rubin project versus brokers will be handled, like where is the line? So I think there was already some discussion and some promise to perhaps start having also some tutorials for the basically for transients rather than just for variable sources, although of course then one can play with the force photometry light curve as a product for of the difference imaging. So perhaps adding that aspect sooner rather than later is something that would put quite a few people more at ease if they can start playing around with that.
And maybe to generalize from Igor's point, we made a few such suggestions like this at the August meeting. Is there any update on any of those? I mean, no is a fine answer, but like, if the answer is yes, then we don't have to spend our time revisiting those.
There was one very sort of subtle but important aspect of DIA having to do with the fact that when you take a baseline during which there was a flare of a given object, and now you're looking at the subsequent segment of data when there's a smaller flare, all of a sudden you might start seeing things looking as negative because of the fact that the average was higher. So there is some concern about that, and I think that do you follow me? What I'm saying is that basically the baseline might be actually incorrect if there was a flare in a baseline. So I'm just bringing this up to say that this is something we're looking into. Ignacio Sevilla was kind enough to I think Ignacio or maybe others mentioned that. So.
Oh, right. I just meant in August at the meeting, the specific suggestion was made to mock up an alert for DP 0.2. Alerts weren't generated, but what would that look like? Could be generated. So
okay.
Instead of us just making the same suggestions at each meeting, it wasn't an update. That's what I was kind of asking about. Yeah, I remember the baseline discussion. I mean, the problem there is that is a user education issue. There's not a right answer.
That's right. But that's a very good point about the mock-up alerts. You know, we certainly will bring this up. You know, whether this is something that we'll add or it will be via some kind of artificial source injection or something like this. I don't know yet. But thank you, Michael, for bringing this up.
Oh, the discussion there was just that there are DIA sources, there are DIA objects. One could reconstruct an alert based on one of those. It didn't have to be a new injection.
So Michael, I suggest that some of these things we, if they're not getting addressed, we can just promote them to the next report if we feel like they're or emphasize them as remaining important issues.
So yeah, something we also brought up already last time is that I think at least in my case, but probably also Matt, like the other Matt, as students working on transient detection, and I'm not sure if also your project involves mock alerts, but at least there is a student that was working with me who has created his own universe of alerts based on the ZTF schema, since it's pretty close to what we would expect from Rubin, and it's there, it's available. So, but I haven't received then any follow-up on that initial suggestion. So I guess I would just offer my availability, and I think anything of that kind, which is basically even a tarball, but better yet, a tarball with a notebook that then people can use to easily access the content and play around with filtering. That could be useful. Again, keeping in mind that this is also the role of the brokers. So I'm not sure exactly where the division should happen.
Let me add that there is a venue for providing delegate contributed notebooks, and I think that might be actually a great place for something like this to be highlighted. So
I wanted to point out exactly that, because at that point Melissa said that a new member of the community engagement team may want to address that, but if it's not, and this person that Igor mentions has it, can contribute that way. And I also, I don't know at what point of the meeting, but now that is mentioned, wanted to highlight the contributions from other people. I haven't attended the delegate assemblies, but I received like these notifications from the community forum where there is a summary of the delegate assemblies, and they give some summaries on notebooks presented by the community, and they are very creative, things that I haven't even thought about. It can be very useful for the people. Maybe it can be even more encouraged from the community to do that.
Yeah, just to elaborate on this, we at one of our recent assemblies we did have 2 delegate contributions, and it was actually very nice, and people just get very excited about how much you can do with this that we didn't even think about to begin with. So thank you. Good comment.
So we have about 10 more minutes in the public session. So want to make sure that people who want to discuss things publicly have an opportunity. Were there, yeah, Anya, your hand is raised.
This is actually, it might be a minor point, but it's on one of the notebooks. It's the first tutorial notebook. So that's like introduction to the whole thing, and it starts to load up table, and then comes the first plot. And it's a magnitude versus color diagram, and it looks really weird. It has quantized colors, but this is the first time that somebody starting with notebooks will actually see like the data that's in DP0. I can share my screen if try to share my screen. So somebody, so somebody starting with the notebooks, they go through, well, this is Jupyter, this is, this is how you load data, and then it's the first time that they see data, and it looks weird. And I don't actually know why it looks quantized. I just know that it really shouldn't look quantized.
I believe they said that was an artifact for how they created the data. Is that correct, Greg? Yeah, so it's not supposed to be that way. It's just sort of an artifact.
I know.
The MSTAR models are discrete. There's not a continuous MLT.
Yes, but right now it says this generates lots of questions, such as
I
why
totally
not
agree with you.
quantized? And then it says potential topics of scientific analysis, which it just says, there's something going on, and we don't want to, tell you right here. But maybe this should not be our first foot forward in showing people, the DP0 data. Maybe we can just come up with another plot which, doesn't have an issue like that.
Thanks, Anya. Yeah.
Good point.
It, just as you said, it's an artifact of the data challenge 2 from Desk, which is where the data come from.
Yes, but the data challenge can also produce really, really nice plots. So we should just pick a different one.
Point well taken.
Marcus, did you have something you wanted to discuss?
Well, actually, yeah. So, well, it's actually I wanted to say also it's very, very good notebooks. So I'm using them quite often, especially this Butler. I think Butler is one of the notebook tools which are used very frequently or going to be used very frequently. So I think it's very important, the Butler. And the tutorials are just great. So I'm actually using the tutorials together with some students to teach them how to access the data. And they learn quite quickly with the notebooks. So they are a great tool to access the LSST data. Sure. What I also like is you can easily plot images and see what images, what stars are detected and everything. Sometimes with the colors, when you have different colors, sometimes there's some bluish color and some green bluish, some violet or some bluish, which are not easily distinguishable. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a great tool, yeah. And the tutorials are very great to access to understand the Butler, how it works. Yeah.
Oh, Marcus, I kind of phase out for a second. The color issue, that's for symbols or what?
They are for if you make plot a CalExp, if you get a CalExp and then with AVW you plot it in Matplotlib, and then you have the different colors of the detections, right?
Oh,
and,
yes.
and there's sometimes a blue greenish detection and sometimes a blue-red detection, right? Something like violet. And it's not clear what the difference is between those two detections.
Okay, yes. And maybe an improved improved car lookup table in that tutorial would be useful. Yeah. Look, thanks.
Yeah.
Something that we want to hear from you about is whether you see any showstoppers, any blocks that really prevent you from working. That's the most important part for us to facilitate that to go away.
No, I don't see any showstoppers. I can say I'm also using quite often the tutorials and copy code snippets, which are very useful. So in a let's say, because I'm working also with a Butler, so in a working environment, the tutorials are very useful, where you can look up if you what you need. So yeah. Yes.
I can say that maybe for me, the most the barrier that stops me the most is the time. Maybe my lack of creativity of how to integrate the DP0 to my current research, and I guess some people have done it in a better way, but at this stage that the data is simulated and has some constraints in the size of the simulation of the simulated sky. Maybe that is what is preventing me to use this even more. But I guess that maybe some people have created some projects for students, for instance, to explore the data. If they can or want to share those ideas, would be great to motivate the use of this. Even when we have the possibility, for instance, to add more people as delegates, it's like the time and how to integrate it with other projects that can be the caveat for me.
Have any of you started to use the truth tables that are available in the portal nowadays, among others? That's something that we feel that can be fun to play with if you want to.
So
Yeah, that's sort of a new ingredient. So I wanted to advertise it to you, just in case if you want to provide us with the sort of a good way to showcase whether anything is not working correctly.
Great, thank you.
What is the preferred way to report, for instance, a bug or a typo? Is the GitHub issue or the forum or both?
The trivial thing is, for instance, to try to take a patch of the sky and look, for instance, for magnitudes in the patch of the sky as inferred by the pipeline, and then compare that against the truth table. For instance, that's just an example, very trivial, very simple example, or you can do something a lot more sophisticated.
Yes, I meant the way to report it. Once we find it, is it better to post it as a GitHub issue or a community forum post, which is the preferred way?
Putting it to community forum is great, but if you put it into notes from your report, once you finalize the report, that might be useful too.
But pardon, I don't think we should put typos in our report.
No, I don't. I think it's high level.
So I think my answer would be for typos and the stuff you can make direct PRs against the tutorial notebooks.
All right, we're at 12 o'clock. So at this point, I will open a breakout room. And those of you who are members of the committee, please go ahead and join the breakout room and at least Doug, Tina, and myself will stay in the main room. And those of you who are from the outside of the community of the outside of the group of the users committee, you probably would be encouraged to, at this point, to either stay in the main room or just to sign off. So Matthew, I'm going to open the breakout room, just one, and it will be for the participants to choose it, so you can go ahead and join in. Is that okay?
That's okay. I just want to say thank you to the CET for helping to organize this meeting. If we don't come back, we may come back and have questions for you, but if we don't see you again, I want to thank you explicitly.
Yeah, we very much look forward to your questions. I think for us it's very important because you are the engine that makes it better by telling us what's not good.
I see a couple of hands up.
They were applause.
Okay.
All right, so I opened the breakout rooms. I think that you now are encouraged to join in, those of you who are in the committee members. So.
I don't actually know. How do I move to the breakout room?
I think you click on breakout rooms and join, or I can actually make you.
I see the join. I see the join. Okay, yeah.
You see it? Okay, great. Wonderful. Thank you.
I think that was a very informative session.
I really think so. I think that the team is engaged, and I'm totally delighted that they are. I think that the comments about the access to portal tutorials, that was pretty useful, and so on and so forth. And
frequently ask questions sections. Yeah,
we have one in the For Scientists website, but I'm supposed to be going through there, but I don't know that we have one anywhere else, do we?
Probably not. So I think we need to probably bring this up on Thursday, on our Thursday meeting, to see how to make it more, make sure that it's there and how to make it more visible. I know that that's a pretty high priority item for just about all the Rubin, Rubin matters. For instance, our in-kind contribution has a pretty extensive one for that.
And Marcus raised an interesting question that maybe has relevance for the RTN 45 that Tina's working on. Was he noted that some of the colors in one of the in the overplotting of symbols on top of I think this is for the tutorial which talks about mask showing the masks and so on a Kali XP or a co-added image. They said that they were kind of hard to distinguish, and so maybe we need to also. I know Tina, you're adding something about having for the at least colors of the filter passbands being colorblind sensitive.
Right. Yeah.
And then I think there's another place elsewhere about using palettes that were colorblind sensitive.
Yeah, we do mention that. But was the criticism? He's so tough. He's protecting me from the mailman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, alerting me that the mailman is here. Well, actually, the mailman is just walking outside.
How dare he?
Yeah. So was the plot that they were discussing, was that in a notebook or a tutorial? And were we using the colorblind stuff in there?
We might not have been in that one.
Aha.
I can double check. Let me take a look. Yeah, it's the one which I'm familiar with because it's one which I made use of for other things. But I think, but it's basically there's a mask playing for the images, and you can kind of overplot circles around each of the objects and
Right.
or places where there's like a cosmic ray or
Yeah. We gotta-
whatever.
It's hard.
Let me-
It's hard to understand how 3.5 pounds can make that much noise.
The
Very
smaller
true.
the dog, the larger the bark.
3.5 pounds makes that much noise. So I sometimes I can't even hear what you said. So so we need to find whatever tutorial or notebook had that overplot in it. Vaguely, I can vaguely
I-
remember. I can go look.
I can find it because I think I used it. I used it before. I can find it. Eh? Let me see. Which one was that? Release display.
I intentionally am not stopping the recording because I think that some of the stuff we're highlighting here might be useful for, eventually for Melissa to hear as well. But for whatever, I don't know if you're gonna ever post this recording.
You can always edit it.
And thank you
So
very
that-
much, Doug, for reminding me. I have this very strange thing that looks exactly like pause stop recording that appears in my instance of Zoom.
Oh no problem. I was suddenly realizing I didn't get the little message and the little voice over
warning.
that says, yeah,
Recording in
progress.
A chance to leave right now.
I'm not sure why I picked up on that, but then I realized, oh, yeah, I didn't hear that.
No, that's brilliant.
I had
That's
written
great.
it down as a note to remind you, and then I forgot to even look at the notes. So that
Yeah, I have my notes here as well.
not
Yeah,
helpful if I don't look at them.
Oh,
Go
also, I run a desk meeting which you have to record the things, and I have to do that. There, I usually put in the live notes. Don't forget to put the start recording. So I think a couple of things. I think that kind of maybe jolted my
That's why-
memory too.
Yeah, that's why Melissa has it on the delegate assembly slides.
Mm.
She has it right there on the first page.
Oh
So,
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably where I picked it up. Maybe where I picked it up from was seeing that. So I did it for the, yeah. Let's see, where was the, let's see. Interactive news. Visualization. Let's see. It might have been 3N. Let's see.
But I'm actually really happy that the most of the members of the users committee seem to be getting into notebooks, joining the delegate assemblies and stuff like this. So
Yeah, some are particularly active, like
Igor,
yeah, Igor. I was trying, yeah, my brain, short-term memory is not what it used to be.
and Michael Wood-Vasey is also pretty active. I
Oh,
think the
yeah.
point that he made about trying to do basically to highlight how alerts would look like, that's pretty useful.
Mm, mhm.
I think many people who are into variable sources are into
Oh,
this.
yeah, that's going to be really important. I'm not sure. Where does that lie? Would that be? Who's responsible? Where would that lie, though? I mean, would that be something that we would do?
That's a good
or-
question. We
Yeah.
probably should bring it up on Thursday again. That's another one of those things that
Yeah.
we need to highlight. So Thursday would be a useful meeting to discuss that stuff. So
Yeah, I think there are people who are working on that. I mean, like, I know Matt Wiesner is looking at that. Another, I guess, probably Michael Wood-Vasey also.
yeah, Michael Wood-Vasey was the one who brought it up, right?
Okay, yeah.
Right. I mean, that's his science. His science is basically supernovae and objects that go bump in the night.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Is there anything else that we should have on the recording? Or you guys are pretty happy with us sort of at least making sure that we highlighted what we need to think about? I'm just trying to see if there's
I
anything.
guess
Yeah, this whole issue of keeping track of changes and how should there be a page sort of equivalent to FAQ page where we would have sort of major changes that people need to be aware of in the notebooks or tutorials? That's sort of, that would be extra work for us, but I wonder if this is something that we need to think about.
A change log might be beneficial if it was
If we keep up
presented.
with it.
Yeah,
Not forget about it.
if we kept up with it, and if it was information that was essential to, I mean, it used to work 3 months ago. Why isn't it working now? And you can go in and see what was changed potentially. I could see there could be benefit to having a change log in there, and it wouldn't be that hard, but I mean, I guess the ultimate, who was the person who's going to summarize it and who's going to upload it into our documentation?
Yeah, well, one way or the other, I think this is one item that we can bring up with Melissa, because it might be really useful, might be important to have, or maybe I tend to think yes, but maybe that's beyond the scope of our.
Now, are we talking change log to the notebooks or change log to the system?
I was thinking about sort of change log to the major changes to notebooks and tutorials. But only major changes. There's something that's just basically has to be clarified because of the new release of particular weekly or something like this. That's.
I mean, if we switched say we were doing something with a tool and then we switched it to a different type of tool, or we added a new type of tool, I could see where that might be helpful. We already have the metadata where you can go in and kind of see which tools are included in there, but I don't know if we're talking just the note. I don't know. Melissa will have to.
Yeah. This is probably sort of the
It could be
subject of
useful.
informal discussion on Thursday, I think, maybe.
Yeah. Are you starting a list?
Yeah, I had a bunch of things here. With my
We can
faithful
type it into the Confluence page now.
Okay, I can put those things, unless you want to put it into Confluence.
No, I wasn't actually writing them down. I can if you tell me what they are, but I wasn't writing them down, so I don't have them.
Okay, I'll put into Confluence page for the Thursday discussion for next week.
I wasn't that on the ball today. Greg, how old are your kids and where are they going to school?
They're at University of Chicago and they're just starting their junior year. Well, they're in the middle of first semester or first quarter.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
They're very happy there. They think it's cold and there's a lot of work, but they think that they feel sufficiently challenged.
Good. Very good.
What are they majoring in?
One of their twins, one of them is molecular biology and the other one is biochemistry. At this point, maybe I should stop